watching GearWire.com. I'm Owen and we are at the 2011 Winter NAMM show with Justin Meldal-Johnsen, bassist with Beck, 9 Inch Nails, and many, many others. How's it going?
Going good.
What's your favorite thing you've seen at the show so far?
People playing really fast on the guitar.
There's a lot of that here.
Yeah, it's. I think I'm addicted to it. Yeah, I think I'm going to start buying solo guitar albums exclusively to listen to in my record collection from here on out.
I find it affects my heartbeat when I'm here for too long.
Yeah, I know. It sort of creates palpitations. But no, seriously, what have I seen that's really cool? Probably my favorite thing that I'm obsessed with over all these days, and that's sucking all the money out of my bank account, is modular synthesis. So I spend a lot of time downstairs at the Analog Haven booth looking at new modules from like Make Noise, Malekko, Harvestman, all that kind of stuff, Tip Top. And so that's like a real big hobby of mine that's now become something that I actually use in the studio. It was sort of like an affliction, like an addiction, whatever, and now it's become something that I use when I'm making records and stuff. So anyway, that's an obsession that I've really been enjoying coming to the NAMM show to see.
Is that an obsession that started with a recent gig that you were on?
No, not particularly. I just I've always been fascinated by that since, like, you know, being a fan of Jean-Michel Jarre or Kraftwerk or anything like that. Like, you know, seeing big, you know, Roland System 100s or Moog modulars and wondering what it was all about. So, you know, when you get a little bit of extra money at some point, and that's a really logical place to sink it, you know, for someone like me who's like really into electronic music and that kind of thing. So
better than like getting into yachting or something.
Well, yeah. I mean, do you have a problem with Yani? I mean,
I'm in yachting.
Oh,
like
yachting.
Like boating.
Oh, I thought you were dissing Yani for a minute. I started to get upset.
I would never.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad. Yachting, that's a bit above my pay grade. Yachting's a bit above my pay grade, but I aspire to that. I took a flying lesson last summer. Does that count?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Okay, good. Cool. Yeah.
So are you composing stuff, like starting with synthesis stuff now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I use that as a basis for songs. I'm producing a record now for a band called M83, this band from France, who has typically based a lot of their work on their past 4 records on synthesizers, and we start songs that way by having a synthesizer sort of act as a bed or a rhythmic, basis for then composing from. So it becomes, use it for something like that, or you use it for something to take the song, feed audio into the modular synth, and then obliterate it and transform it into something new. So we're writing right now and using not only our synthesizer collection, but modular synths in particular to take the songs and take them somewhere else, if you will.
So, I mean, how has that affected sort of like the way you've thought about songwriting or producing, starting from there?
I don't know if it's affected the songwriting process. I mean, I just use it as another tool. I mean, it's just as well for me to like start the song off with a bass line as it is to start the song with my modular or like a beat or whatever. It's just, just so as a songwriter and a producer, kind of anything goes. I mean, that sounds like a cliche, but I'm perfectly happy going any way with the beginning of creative process. Yeah.
So you've been sort of a modular synthesis fan for a long time, even before you started?
A couple of years.
What was the learning curve like?
A little steep, but the thing is that I found, it was ironic, is getting into modular synthesis is actually a good way to get into learning about synthesis because it's so graphical. And the way that the components of synthesis work, it's like one of them is an oscillator, one of them is a filter, one of them is an envelope, one of them is an amplifier, one of them is a mixer, and one of them is like things beyond that. And so everything strings together in a logical way, in a way that allows you to sort of understand the basics of synthesis in a way that like a menu-driven synthesizer does not give you the latitude to do whatsoever. So modular synthesis, although it looks quite daunting and complex, is a great entry point. And then when you start patching things and rerouting things, you start to understand like the alternate functions of an LFO or what an envelope can apply to a filter versus an oscillator. And so that's very, very illuminating for someone who's always, synthesis has always been sort of an arm's length, and now it's much more tactile. So I actually highly recommend it, and there's lots of ways to get into it that are a lot more affordable than you would ever think. Like you can put together a really cool, for a couple grand, you can put together a really viable little system that is as affordable as something kind of fancy made by another company, like, or other like monophonic synthesizers. Like you can buy a Moog Voyager or a Little Fatty or whatever, but like those are great, and I own those. But on the other hand, you can also do the same thing with a modular synth for a similar price point, and maybe even have more flexibility and more expansion. So that's the name of the game with that.
So do you have like sort of a favorite maker of like lower priced sort of synth modules?
For utility, like you can't beat Doepfer because they sort of were the foundation of the renaissance of modular synthesis, and they make a lot of great modules and a lot of great sounding things like oscillators and filters that people still regard very highly, even though there's a lot of boutique manufacturers that have gone way beyond that in terms of innovation or the eccentricity of the modules and all that kind of thing. But Doepfer, as an example, is a really good sort of entry point, and the stuff is affordable and really good. And Tip Top Audio makes some other really good affordable modules, and you can get into it, and it's better than you think. You can get, financially speaking, and the fact that you can easily process audio as well is a real plus for any creative musician. It's sort of like something to have in your toolbox. People are using modulars like an effects pedal board, these days. So it's pretty deep.